Guys, welcome back to another episode from the Fantasy Kickabout and to our Wildcard Wednesday for FPL. This week we have Shane Pollard joining us, who many of our listeners will be familiar with from our regular podcasts. Shane is currently ranked 139,000th in the world. Also, I don't think Shane wants us to remind him of this, but twice runner-up in the Fantasy Kickabout League over the past two seasons. Shane, great to have you back on the podcast, and this time obviously to chat a bit of FPL.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Make a bit of a difference to actually talk about the fantasy.
Exactly. So we'll obviously pick your brains, but just to explain to our listeners again, if it's your first time joining. So Wildcard Wednesday, what we do is we both managers pretend that we have or that we are going to use our wildcard, primarily based on the fixtures that are on the game week ahead. So for game week 5 this week, we have a team value of 82 million, which means that we obviously have 4 players on the bench, and we just say they're valued at 4.5 million each. That's leaving us with 82 million to mess around with and pick our starting 11 for game week 5. Shane, we might let you start, obviously, as the guest, and obviously, like I said, we pick your brain. You've had the past 2 good seasons in the Fantasy Kickabout League, finishing runner up twice. But if you'd like to give us your starting 11 for game week 5, and also some of the reasons why you might have went with such players.
Okay, so in goals, I've gone from Meslier from Leeds. I know Leeds don't have a great defense in terms of how they've looked, but actually against the lower teams in the league, they've got a good record. Newcastle don't look very good. Again, I'm not really sure what they're going to offer going forward. And Meslier I had in goals last season for a big chunk of the second half of the season, and he was a really good keeper for picking up save points and bonus points. So that's my thoughts there. Even if he doesn't get a clean sheet, he seems to pick up extra points quite a lot. Then with my back three, I've gone for Trent, who obviously playing against Palace at home, set pieces, creates lots of chances, and he looks like he's in good form this season. Ruben Diaz from City. Again, I fancied him to get a clean sheet, and he's always a threat at set pieces. Then I've gone for first of my Wolves players on my team, which is a bit of an unusual one for me. I've gone for Martial. Again, Wolves just in good form in terms of look like they're playing well, haven't got the results maybe they've deserved. A couple of assists last weekend, and Brentford haven't actually impressed me massively since the Arsenal game from what I've seen. Then moving on to my midfield, I've got Traore, who I know can't finish his dinner, but Brentford are going to play high press. They're going to possibly leave space with the way they play, leave gaps. So I actually fancy him to pick up some points this weekend. Gone for Rafinha from Leeds. Leeds need to kickstart their season, and I think he is the man to do it. Really impressed him as a player last season, and I hope he can push on because I think he could be top quality. Next up is my captain, which is Mo Salah. He looked really good against Leeds last week. A good fixture against Palace. I know Palace had a good win, but I think possibly the way Vieira's come in, he's looking to change the style of play, might actually lend itself to helping out or to being easier to play against the further bigger teams than when Roy Hodgson was there. So I think there might be space, or there might be some chances for Salah this weekend to get some goals. I've gone for his teammate in Jota. I just think price-wise, he's a no-brainer. There's concerns about rotation, but if he plays, he's one of the best value players in the whole game. And then the same with my next choice, which is Ferran Torres. Obviously, you don't know what's going to happen with City. I'm a little bit concerned with who'll play tomorrow night for City in Champions League. If he starts in that, he might not play. But again, for his value and where he's been playing this season, and the way Pep's spoken about him as having the instincts of a striker, I think he's a bit of a no-brainer. And then finally, I've gone for my front two. So my third Wolves player, which I'm looking at it now, but I don't know. I fancied him against Brentford this weekend. I've gone for Jimenez. He's not. I'm going off the Man United game here more so. He didn't look himself that day. Like, he looked like he was still getting back. And I think the Jimenez of the season before he got his injury would have punished us that day. And like, luckily for us, he seemed to still be getting back into it. But I fancy him this weekend. And then finally, Lukaku. I know it looks like a tough game against Spurs, but after seeing that Palace game on the weekend with Spurs, and Lukaku's I think he's just bagged another one tonight in the Champions League. And Chelsea just look really good. He's going to get chances. Like against Villa the other day, it was a very close game, 50-50, but just took the 2 goals so well. And Chelsea have so many good players around them, and the likes of Havertz is hitting form, and like Werner's not even really, been playing to take a bit of the pressure away. But yeah, I fancy Chelsea to possibly give Spurs a bit of a hiding this weekend.
Just a question, obviously, on Marcel of Wolves. Were you listening to the podcast last week where he was one of our differentials? So he could be a very good shout. And like you said, you have the 3 Wolves players in. I know I did last week as well for the team. Couple of players didn't kind of live up to expectations, but Jimenez is hopefully going to kick back into form, like you said. Shane, your team I think comes to 81.9 million, so 0.1 mil to spare. Obviously, you mentioned Salah as captain, kind of a bit of a no-brainer, but what player would you kind of highlight as your differential on that team?
I think one of the 2 Wolves players. I do fancy Traore this weekend. Just as a differential. I know he's not owned by a big percentage at all, quite a small percentage, and I really respect the way Brentford are trying to play, and they will leave space, and they will they won't just sit back. And Traore, he's playing that slightly more central role, or playing off the left, and he's coming inside, and I just think he can do a lot more damage. And he'll either leave me with egg on my face by messing up some gilt-edged chances, or it might be the week where it clicks for him.
And like I said, if Traore can get on form with his final ball, you can definitely see Jimenez at the end of those crosses, or hitting a few headers or volleys into the back of the net. Just obviously go on to my team for game week 5 again. If I was to use the wild card, a lot of similarities to your team, Shane, but one difference is starting in goals went with Ederson at 6 million. Again, similar thoughts behind your reasoning for Diaz. City at home to Southampton, you'd expect the clean sheet. And again, with Pep Roulette, kind of Ederson, Diaz are the only 2 players you can potentially count on to start for City. So Ederson is in goals for me. Trent and Diaz are 2 of my back 3, again similar to yourself, Shane, so I won't spend any time giving the reasons because it's pretty much the same as yourself. I went also with a Wolves defender, but I actually went with Semedo at 4.9 million. I was watching the highlights of the Wolves game last weekend. Semedo had, I think, 2-3 maybe chances or opportunities where he was true on goal. So obviously the wing backs are doing something right in terms of their attacking sense. So I'm thinking Marcel had his like FPL scoring boots on last week, so maybe Semedo might have his on this week. They might pass it to each other. So just said I go something a little bit different with the Wolves defender at the back. Again, midfield based on the fixtures, it's pretty much the same as yourself, Shane. Salah's captain. Jota, as you said, it is a no-brainer. Probably one of the best valued players in the game, and I think Firmino is still out for another week, so you'd almost guarantee that he will start. And also, I think he would have got a great haul last weekend if Mane was able to finish as well, if he didn't kind of confuse things for himself when he was true on goal. Rafinha as well in midfield, Ferran Torres. Again, a bit of a gamble, probably the biggest gamble on the team this week. Again, similar reasons to yourself, where I think last weekend he was taken off in the 65th minute or something for City.
Yeah, it was just after 60.
Yeah, so again, we don't know what Pep's going to do. So kind of, again, no guarantees.
I'm just thinking Pep won't play a striker in Europe tomorrow, so he's safe for the weekend.
Yeah, mind you, you could go with Jesus maybe in Europe and leave Torres for the Premier League. Sure, we'll see how that goes tomorrow evening. Then up top, you obviously went with the 2 forwards. I went with the 3 forwards up top. So Jimenez, obviously, again, similar to yourself, Wolves do have a nice run of fixtures. I went Bamford, again, similar to yourself, Shane, where you were saying Leeds will probably kickstart their season away to Newcastle on Friday night. So again, if Bamford can rediscover his form from last season, he'd be definitely a shoe-in for a lot of FPL managers. I think Leeds have a decent run over the next couple of fixtures or game weeks. So maybe Bamford can get off the mark on Friday night. Also, I think he's dropped in value as well. So FPL managers might be 7.1 mil there as well. Probably my biggest differential this weekend, I've gone for the Watford striker Dennis at 5.2 million. I know he had a great opening weekend and he hasn't really done much since. But again, Watford against Norwich, it's pretty much a 6-pointer already in that game. Watford conceded Norwich conceded a lot of chances. So
yeah,
again, if Watford can do anything within their attack, I'm guessing and I'm hoping Dennis will be at the heart of it. So my team came to 78.8 million, so I had a little bit to spare in the bank, but I took a few gambles this week. I'm going to throw a question at you, Shane.
Yeah.
How many points do you think your team will accumulate in game week 5?
This wildcard team?
Yeah, your wildcard team. I know we're kind of putting you on the spot here, but
at least 70.
At least 70. Someone's confident there. Someone's confident. I fancy
Salah as captain to get me minimum 20.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. If he plays, obviously.
Yeah, he'll 100% play. He'll probably 100% score or definitely get some sort of returns. Didn't he score 2 last season in the 7-0 win away from home?
Came on and scored a hat trick, didn't he? I think even.
Yeah, 2 goals, I think it was. So I just think, I know it's kind of going off tangent for FPL, but Salah has kind of rediscovered his form from a couple of seasons back. He looks threatening, he looks dangerous again, he looks like he has the determination to go again, and obviously
he looked very explosive against Leeds, like strong, very quick acceleration. He just looked on it, I thought, in that match.
Yeah, no, he did look a good.
Firpo at left back for Leeds was just in knots trying to keep an eye on him.
Yeah, he really didn't know what was going on or what hit him. But based on game week 4, obviously O'Hara was on last week and he pipped me by 2 points, so it was 72-70. So I'm going to reverse the order this week and go with 72 on my team. Obviously Salah captain as well, so I think we had 4 or 5 players that were different, so that's where the the differentials might make a difference. And if anyone's obviously listening in terms of FPL managers, that hopefully they'll take some of this on board and might help their teams out, or their decision making out for game week 5 if they're looking for some certainties or some differentials.
Well, you are top
as well.
of the league, so you know.
I know. Manager of the month, first time in 3 seasons, so I'm gonna definitely soak it all in and enjoy it for the next one, because I may not be there come the end of September. We might jump on to a couple of questions we got on our story today, just kind of general FPL questions. But our first question was, do you think Pogba will keep up his form, and is he worth bringing into the team now?
I'm going to say no to all of that, because as a Man United fan, having watched Pogba over the last few years, he always does spurts of form, and I don't know why there's any reason to make me think any different. I suppose the big thing with Pogba as well is he going to play every week? What position is he going to play? If he's playing central midfield, is he going to get? He's probably not going to get the numbers. I know he did at the weekend against Newcastle, but if he is playing slightly deeper, which you imagine he will for the most part, no, I don't. I think if you hadn't got him by now, I wouldn't be rushing to get him in, but well done if you've had him so far.
Yeah, no, I'd probably 100% agree with that. Is he worth getting ahead of, we'll say, another Man United asset such as Greenwood in midfield? For me, probably not. Obviously, if you have Fernandes, I'd stick with Fernandes over Paul Pogba. So it's a thumbs down from both of us FPL managers.
He usually gets an injury or two as well, you know.
That's true. He does miss a big chunk of the season now for the last 2 or 3 seasons, hasn't he? Really? Yeah. So, it could be your classic FPL move. You bring him into the team, his form dips, and then he picks up an injury. You lose a bit of value on him, and that's just your classic FPL play, really, isn't it? So next question, Shane. It's also a Man United one. Which United players would you be thinking of having long term?
So I currently have 3. I've got Bruno, Greenwood, and Shaw, and I've not seen Man United get a penalty yet, so I'm a little bit. I was definitely getting rid of Bruno if I knew Ronaldo was going to be on penalties, but for me, Luke Shaw is the only one that I'm definitely going to keep long term. I think United will get enough clean sheets that's worthwhile. He's a set piece taker this season as well, and we saw in the Newcastle game how high he played up, especially if you've got. So if Pogba's going to play on the left, he has to be the one that offers that, you know, width out on the left. So he plays very, very high in that situation. So he would be. I know I haven't said Ronaldo, obviously, but like I'm 50-50 on whether Ronaldo, how many goals Ronaldo will score goals, but I'm not sure if he's going to play every single game. I'm not sure, you know, if he's, say we're playing Champions League games, if he might be rested for them. So to answer your question, Luke Shaw is my number 1 Man United player to have long term this season.
Perfect. And I'm actually going to throw a question your way. You obviously mentioned you have Shaw on your team, Fernandes, and Greenwood, was it? Or Greenwood, yeah. Do you regret not bringing Ronaldo in for game week 4?
I do, just for the 1 game week, but United's run of fixtures now is really, really difficult. So there's a part of me that's looking to possibly offload Bruno or Greenwood or both even over the next few weeks, just because of the run of fixtures are very difficult.
And that's obviously an interesting take, because I think it's obviously something you have done over the last couple of years, finishing so high with fantasy football within the Fantasy Kickabout League. And it's something I've really taken on board this year, where I'm looking not just 1 or 2 fixtures ahead, but I'm looking 5 or 6 at times fixtures
Yeah.
ahead and kind of planning. Do you want to just quickly chat to us about kind of how you plan for game weeks, or have you got a kind of consistency to planning?
I think a big thing I try not to do is like just jump on board. So like you were just saying about Pogba, because he's had a few good weeks, or like I've not brought in Ferran Torres yet, like a lot of people have. Because I try and think about, it killed me with Gundogan last season. If I had brought Gundogan in, I would have won our league. But I was like, oh, he can't keep it going. He can't keep it going. So I do try and I try and look at it more of a long-term thing. Like if I'm picking my team, I'd say out of my 11 players that are starting, there's probably always 7 or 8 of them that I'm looking to have over nearly the course of the whole season, depending on injuries. And then I've got 3 or 4 that I look to rotate depending on fixtures, or like groups of fixtures coming up. So yeah, like looking at my team now and the players I have, there's at least 5 or 6 that I have no intentions of getting rid of unless something drastic happens over the course of the season, because I believe they're going to have a good season overall.
Yeah. I might just go on to 2 more questions for you, and then we can wrap up.
I want to know, before we move on, I want to know what your golden tactic is for this season. You know, to come flying out of the blocks.
Honestly, it's just been planning. Like I've actually put a lot more time into it than I would have normally. And again, I would have been very much, I suppose, kind of reactive. Again, if a player is doing well, I bring them in. And as we were chatting about a few minutes ago, that player could decline, underperform, and all of a sudden they're kind of useless within your team. And I suppose another thing I've done this year, where I've held on to literally Friday evening or Saturday morning before making, like even with Ronaldo last weekend, I only made that final call to put him in my team. Obviously, once he went in, he became captain. I only made that decision at 9:30, 10 o'clock on Saturday morning.
Yeah.
So it's again kind of been planning long term and kind of messing around a little bit more and spend a little bit more time. But I'm sure that's not new for yourself, Shane.
Yeah. Can I ask you one question? Because it's something
fire ahead.
Something that I struggle with in fantasy is being a Man United fan. I get quite animated watching the games, if I'm being honest. This is the first time I've ever had 3 Man United players in my team. And I only did it because the fixtures were very favourable for those first 4 matches. I really dislike having Man United players in my team, because if I'm watching the match and they're not doing well, it makes it twice as bad. Do you have that at all, or does it come into it when you're watching them play?
I 100% feel your pain, and I know where you're coming from. And I think last season, Fernandes was the only United player I had in my team, pretty much the whole season.
Same, I think, as well, to be honest.
The season before that, I remember for the second half of the season, Greenwood, I think, was 4.5 million as a striker. So I brought him in. I had Rashford, I think he might have been a midfielder in that game. And I also had Martial, but then Bruno came in that obviously from January onwards.
Yeah.
So I rotated between the 4 of those players for the second half of the season.
Yeah.
And obviously I didn't come anywhere in our league because I was so far down come January when Fernandes signed, but I climbed up. I think I might have been 10th.
I was going to say, because that was when those 4 really clicked, was like when the football restarted again.
Yeah. So, but normally, Shane, to be honest, I probably would have avoided Man United players before that. Again, just because they weren't consistent enough. Like you said, you'd just be too annoyed watching them. So I was happy to push them to the side and kind of focus on another player that was performing. But it's a good question, because it's kind of similar with, for example, I've heard of players where they may be a Man United fan and they refuse to put a City or Liverpool fan in. And for me, probably not going to win FPL or your own mini league.
I'm almost the opposite. I'm like, oh well, if they're going to win, I might as well get something out of it.
Yeah.
It was like
that's good thinking.
That was like, I had Salah as my captain against Leeds, and I had Trent, I wanted Leeds to win the game as a Man United fan, which is a bit weird because we don't like Leeds. But at the same time, with having Trent in my team and having Salah as captain, I was like, at least I might as well get something positive out of it if they do win.
Yeah. Well, that's a very good way of thinking of it, I suppose. Speaking of Leeds, that was one of the next questions. Should we be getting Leeds players in for the next couple of game weeks, or would you hold off?
I would say yes, because of their value. I think there's a few Leeds players. Everyone will be looking to get the same ones in. I wouldn't be getting Dallas in because he's changed from a midfielder because he's missing out on those clean sheet points, which were amazing last season. You know, he was getting clean sheets, assists, bonus, goals. I don't think he's possibly worried now with that. I think Bamford and Rafinha are the two obvious ones to be looking to get in. Is Harrison was good last season as well. Will Dan James get games? But I think, they've got a really good run of fixtures now, and I think if you're gonna get them in soon, and if they do hit form, it could be something that really helps, you know, over these next few weeks. I don't know. I think they will come good against the lesser sides. You know. But.
Yeah. Almost like second season syndrome for Leeds so far at the moment.
I think the lack of signings. I think like it's really difficult when you even see it when teams are winning and they don't change their team. You know, it's really hard. I think you need to bring in like a few starting players to just shake it up a bit. And they could. Yeah, Llorente getting injured the other day is not good for them either, because he seemed to make a real difference at the end of last season when he was fit. But we'll see.
Yeah. So, final question, Shane. We're obviously talking in terms of Wildcard Wednesday, but in terms of your own team, have you used your wildcard? Have you activated it, or are you planning to over the next couple of game weeks?
I haven't yet, but I've had a bit of a disaster with. I currently have Antonio, who's suspended, which I was originally just happy to hold on to and not worry about, but made a really bad decision this last game week and brought in Calvert-Lewin. Just because Everton had a decent run of fixtures, but he looks like he's going to be out. And now a couple of my budget players that had been playing have slowly moved out of their sides. So I'm actually at a situation, I would never really consider playing a wild card this early, and I haven't made up my mind yet, but I'd say there's probably a 50-50 chance that I will play it this week. And to be honest, it would probably be quite close to the team I've given today. If I do maybe one or two small changes looking at longer term, but there's quite a few of the players that I chose for our Wildcard Wednesday podcast that have a good game week this week, but they also have a good maybe 4, 5, 6 game weeks coming up too. So yeah, I am actually considering it this early, which I wouldn't usually.
Yeah, so we might find out on first game's actually Friday evening, isn't it?
Yeah,
so
I'm
we might
actually
find out
glad you
Friday
mentioned
afternoon.
it. Yeah, I would have realized later in the week, but I didn't. I think because there's European football on, I just presumed there's Saturday. I didn't even think about it. Have you played? You've not played your wild card, have you?
No. But again, I was considering it more so for maybe game week 7 with trying to bring in some Chelsea assets.
Yeah,
because Chelsea have a good run of fixtures. But then again, I was thinking maybe would I just do it this weekend and get certain players in where I've messed around with it. And at the moment, I've been able to fit in Lukaku, Ronaldo, Salah, so 3 premiums.
Yeah.
And I had a couple of decent players in and around them, like Ferran Torres, Greenwood, Trent, Shaw. Yeah. People are probably thinking, how can you fit all those players in? Of course, you take some of the hits where you get some kind of low budget players in. But I had a couple of them in, like James McArthur, is it, from Palace? I think he's played all 3 games at the moment for them. So he's a starter, not obviously getting big points. So it might be a sacrifice of 10 players, hopefully scoring points, and one potentially scoring maybe 2, 3 max a week.
Yeah.
But again, I probably will hold off on it because I'm doing quite all right at the moment. So
Yeah.
no need to press the panic button quite yet.
Yeah. My big thing is I had a few budget players who were playing because of injuries. And that was fine. But now that my two main strikers are both either injured and suspended on top of that, it's suddenly become an issue where I've got 4 blanks going into this game week. And even if I was to take, say, a -4 to get 2 players starting, I still have those 2 other players that are not starting for their teams or won't be getting minutes probably even anymore. So I'm kind of thinking, do I do it now while I've still got some of my players that have good value, and maybe I get some Chelsea or Leeds in and hope that I get them in now and then they hit a good run of form with their fixtures and their price, like their value rises as well. Kind of, I don't know, but I never really overthink it like this, so I should probably not. Not into that too much.
I'm sure the podcast got you overthinking just in terms of this Wildcard Wednesday, and probably overthinking it because think about it, it's for 1 week and 1 week only that you're potentially doing the Wildcard Wednesday.
I was just thinking about all those points I could get this week looking at that team.
Yeah. Was it 70 you quoted earlier? So
70,
we'll see how you get on. But actually, one final question just popped into my head. Obviously, you mentioned Antonio suspended. And he's obviously someone that's risen in price over the last couple of weeks. For anyone that has him, obviously you're thinking about using your wild card, so that would be getting rid of him. But for anyone that has him at the moment, would you be saying to keep him or to sell him?
I would keep him if you've got players to come off the bench that are at least going to play and get 2 points, because his run of fixtures after the Man United game are quite favourable as well. They've got a nice little run, and I think a lot of people might be looking to bring him in after the United game as well. So again, his price might go up if you do sell him. If you don't have any room in your budget, you might not be able to get him back in. I think Antonio is one of those players that, like I was talking about, he was one of those like 5 or 6 looking at my team that I didn't really plan on getting rid of and keeping them in for the whole season. So if you've got, unless you got a bit of room in your budget that you can bring someone in for this week and then maybe bring them back, I would keep them and get one of your subs just covering for you for 1 game week. Can I put you on the spot with a question?
Go for it.
So earlier in the group, you asked about the top scorer of the league now, because we did predictions before Ronaldo came in and all this. Who is going to be the top scorer in fantasy football points this season?
I remember when we did our first podcast with Niall Crossan from FPL Era, he was saying Salah or Fernandes. We can't kind of go wrong with either of them. Like, Salah's always going to be up there. But I think now, obviously, Ronaldo's in the mix, Lukaku's in the mix.
Yeah.
Trent Alexander-Arnold could be in the mix the way he started this season as well. And I don't think that's ever happened where a defender has been the top scorer in FPL. So probably Trent will fall just short, but
Harry Kane have any chance, or has he just missed too many games straight away, you think?
I think he's missed too many games, and also similar to Pogba, like we were saying earlier,
as well.
He misses. Kane misses a lot of games throughout the season. De Bruyne is probably going to miss a few more games throughout the season as well. So my heart wants to say Ronaldo, but my head is saying Salah. Would Salah be your shout?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I think as well. I don't know if Ronaldo will play as many Premier League games as people think. I don't know. I could be wrong. Like, he might play every week, but I'd imagine there has to be an element of rotation with him at his age. I know he looks after himself amazingly well, but and just because we've got Cavani and Greenwood as options as well, like, they need to get minutes. So I think Salah might play more matches as well overall.
Can see him featuring in every game. Again, whether he starts or whether he comes off, because I think even last season with Juventus, there was a couple of games he missed here and there to be rested or looked after, whether it was a tactical thing or not, but he didn't play every minute for Juventus last season. So it will definitely be interesting to see how he gets on with Manchester United in terms of his minutes this season. But Shane, it was great picking your brain over FPL. We've been obviously dying to get you on and talk more FPL because of your two great seasons in terms of points tally. Maybe, hopefully, fingers crossed. Obviously, I'm not wishing it, but you obviously are, that you can go that one step further and win the Fantasy Kickabout League.
I'd rather finish 10th than second again. I couldn't handle it. I don't think.
But on that, for game week 5, Wildcard Wednesday, may the best FPL manager win.
Cheers, Gary.